I'd like to talk a little bit about the Brian Jonestown Massacre, the band. They are a band, I only discovered them 7 years ago. I was on YouTube and this live show come up, and it's still up, and I totally recommend it. It's from 2016 and it's a festival. It's a large crowd. It's in France, and they do this show. It's about an hour long, and it just blew us away. I couldn't believe it. I thought, how have I never heard of this band, the Brian Jonestown Massacre? And the drummer was amazing. The drummer's not. He goes through drummers like he goes through his drummers. Anton Newcombe, he's the singer and he's the songwriter. He's the guy who does it all basically, and but there's a couple of members he's had for a good few years. Anyway, the drummer is on that particular gig is totally amazing, and probably one of the best drummers I've ever seen, and heard. So that's when I discovered that in 2016. Then I obviously started doing digging. That's funny because they brought a documentary out in 2002 called Dig, which was about the band, which is definitely worth a look at. This sort of started in the early 90s, and they were around at the same time as the Dandy Warhols, and the sort of thing was the Dandy Warhols went big, and both these bands knew each other, the BGM and Dandy Warhols. Dandy Warhols went mainstream, however, and became big, and the Brian Jonestown Massacre didn't, for whatever reason, but it's an interesting story, But certainly, Anton Newcombe is stuck with what he does, and it's a psychedelic rock 60s, Beatles, Stones, Syd Barrett, Floyd, early stuff, dreamy, shoegazy, whatever. It's the sort of stuff I was doing with me band, The Shapes, 1990, 91, 92. That was the whole scene, and it was that gap between. These guys are American, the BGM, but the States and in the UK there was a sort of there was an undercurrent of always 60s, my generation. We always wished we were in the 60s, and so by the early 90s we were that sort of underground scene, all those bands in the UK, and there was a lot of cool bands in America as well, like the BGM, who were doing this hark back to the 1960s, but with a sort of, it's still pulling in a lot of influences from what we got as kids. So there'd be a bit prog rock, 70s prog rock in there as well. And it was a scene, certainly in the UK, it was a scene that was before Britpop. It was the primordial soup that became Britpop, basically, and it was in between the Stone Roses and Britpop, and so when I listen to the BGM, I sort of I'm reminded of that time period. Now, Anton Newcombe is obviously stuck with that, and normally what I would say is I don't understand why. Well, I do understand, but I mean, I like, and I am, you change through the years, you go into different styles. My favourite artists, like the Beatles, would reinvent themselves, Bowie reinvent themselves. But to certain times, there's artists who are just, that's what they do, and you've got total respect for them for sticking with it the whole time, because he keeps on coming out with the songs, and me being me, when I cover one of his songs, their songs, I do it my own way. I always do it my own way. I always cover songs my own way, and I'll do it. That's a video in itself as well, about covering songs. And it's a little bit. It always feels a little bit like archaeology at times, you know. You know, especially with the lo-fi-ness of BGM, these recordings. For me, it feels which is great because I can hear straight away. Like, well, anybody can really if you're into his stuff. You know, I think general people who aren't musicians or producers just hear the songs and they can hear the melodies coming out through the sort of smoky murkiness of the production. What I wanted to say as well, I mean, what I really wanted to say straight off was Anton Newcombe. This is what I was coming to, right? The Brian Jonestown Massacres, I believe, he writes and he records it all on lo-fi gear. I can hear it sounds like lo-fi analog stuff. So I'd imagine he's got a room set up and it's all his favourite analog gear that he's collected over the years. And this is how he records his albums. And I think, I don't know for sure, but I think he may play a lot of the instruments themselves on these albums. So it's like every time he does a Brian Jonestown Massacre, it's his project. Especially in the studio. He wants it exactly how he wants it. And he's sort of recording a lot of the instruments themselves. If not all, I don't know. I'd have to look into it. And it's lo-fi at the end of the day because it's all analog stuff. But what he does as well, he goes out with the Brian Jonestown Massacre and they do big shows, festival shows, and like I said, they get videoed and the sound quality is great because it's a proper production company. These guys know what they're doing to do a live production. So, you know, really, you know, most people would listen to the Brian Jonestown Massacre live. The sound quality of these festival things, get that up on YouTube and hear the album and think, well, that's better, like, because it is, because it's a real band, it's live, and it's produced by guys who know what they're doing, right? Not that Anton Newcombe doesn't know what he's doing, but he knows that when he's recording in the studio and just enjoying his life, recording on vintage gear, he knows also that it's going to get taken to a live setting with a real band, and then so he's getting the best of both worlds there, really. Now you could say, well, why doesn't he just hire a producer and to do it all on like computer DAW system or something like that, or whatever, and get the latest sort of pristine, clear, and that would be a third option. I'm sure he's thought of that. So, but you know, at the end of the day, he's probably thinking, I would imagine, that because he's a purist, and I understand that, you know, his music is, you know, mid-60s Stones, Kinks, early Floyd, Syd Barrett, you know, even the early Beatles records. None of it's pristine DAW system clear. It's all a bit murky, it's all a bit muddy, it's all on old, well, it was new gear at the time. So that's what he's doing. He's recreating that. And then, of course, the live settings satisfying him and other people, and just sonically. So he's got, like I say, he's got the best of both worlds. Doesn't need to be DAW. Doesn't need to be. So that's Anton Newcombe. Check him out, Brian Jonestown Massacre. And I'm doing a few of his stuff at the moment. A couple of his songs. This one is a song called Do Rainbows Have Ends off his new album. It's the first one on the album.
Life, just do the best you can. You don't need another man. If you don't understand my reasons why, then you should leave this plane and say you're
So the thing about that is, this is live, by the way. This is me just playing to the camera, live guitar and vocal. And I've done a sort of studio version, which is still live really, just put a bit better backing vocals on it. Anybody who knows Brian Jonestown Massacre and knows of that song will see how different it is to the original. That's just the way I do it, I like to do my own versions of stuff. I think the guy's good. I think he's a fantastic songwriter, sort of the type of fella that back in the day, in the 1990s, if he'd have been looking for a Paul McCartney to his John Lennon, something like that. Anyway, back to the old gear. What we're talking about here, right? So is he using this sort of stuff? Because this is like modern in it compared to your sort of analog tapes and reel-to-reels and stuff. That the thing about the Roland, let's face it, at the end of the day, right, all this old gear is, you've got to know what you're doing on them. You got to learn how to use them. Like, it's not all about presets on these. You still got to know what you're doing. And at the end of the day, right, I know I keep on harping on about it, but the Boss Micro BR80, it sort of sorts the bottom end out. It sorts literally everything out. You just record into it. And with gear like this, this came out. This is replicating what came before it. So these came out in the early 2000s, and they do that brilliantly. But like I say, you've got to have that. You've got to have the knowledge, like a taxi driver in London. You've got to know that. You've got to have the knowledge of your way around. And I mean, the only thing the reason why I sit with this isn't just because of the sort of authenticity of the sonicness of the sound. It's also because it's a nice place to be. You get all this, all the fear, doesn't it? Just a nice place to be. So the time's coming up, 50. So thank you for watching. If you can, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. All the best. Life just